up the little mini conclusion and something that I hope to illustrate as this video goes on. For all of the raw optical power on display, this is a difficult beast to tame. There are some twitchy bits that I hope Xiaomi can work on, but I'm actually not confident that all of these little gripes can be addressed in software patches, which is the perfect place for us to move to the next section. Talking about the hardware, there's so much hardware. It's not just that we have 4 rear camera sensors. Xiaomi is doing something special with the collection of rear cameras. Of course, the crown jewel is the 1-inch type sensor from Sony, the incredible IMX989, and we've covered the sensor a couple of times now. 50 megapixels, quad bare, 1.6 micron pixels, bin down to 3.2 micron pixels larger than the pixels on the Panasonic Lumix GH6. And paired with the 23mm equivalent lens. The exciting upgrade over last year's Xiaomi 12S Ultra is the 2-stage aperture. The actual aperture on the phone has 2 stages, wide open at f1.9, and then we can stop it down to f4. Considering applications like candids and street photography and mobile journalism, these are 2 perfect aperture stages to use in composing your shot. If you've ever shot full frame, you'll understand how useful those can be, even on a wider lens like a 23. Now, the companion sensors don't have the adjustable apertures, but Xiaomi has still done something special with these other sensors. They're all the same. Now, Oppo matches larger sensors for the Find X6 Pro's ultra-wide and telephoto, but there's no other quad camera setup that has done what Xiaomi has done here. We get 3 of the Sony IMX858 sensors. Now, these are 1/2.51-inch type sensors, are a bit smaller than some of the other half-inch pixel binning solutions we've seen in the past, but we're still in better territory than most other premium phones out there. We've seen some bigger ultra-wides, but the telephotos, where companies like Apple and Samsung use significantly smaller telephoto sensors. We have 3 focal lengths here, an equivalent of a 12mm, a 75, and a 120. Again, compared against a full frame camera, the 12mm has an aperture visually similar to f11. The 75mm also looks similar to f11, and the 120mm will look like a full frame at around f18. That longer telephoto is an interesting animal. It's a much larger sensor than what we would find on a Samsung Note 23. So the Note has more of a crop factor to simulate that longer zoom. On paper, the 2 telephotos don't sound that different. We've got f3 on the Xiaomi versus f4.9 on the Note 23. But we have to factor those significant sensor size differences. The equivalent field of view compared to a full frame, the Xiaomi looks like 120mm at f18. The Samsung looks like 230mm at f40. Okay, here's a weird one, gadget nerds. This is Juan from the future, and I only kind of stumbled upon this looking at the metadata. A little bit of a controversy. I don't think this is going to dramatically change my full review or my conclusions. The medium telephoto on the Xiaomi is not a 75mm equivalent lens. The Xiaomi, when you shoot RAW, it's actually a 60mm. For some reason, when you shoot in auto, they push it to 75, and they're doing that with a little bit of a crop to the image. Like the section that we just went through, my math has gotten so funky because these numbers weren't lining up. So here's what we know on the Xiaomi 13 Ultra. The actual lens is a 9.9mm lens that works out to around a 60mm equivalent because of the crop factor of the smaller sensor, and that's in the Pro mode, so that's what you'll get when you shoot RAW files. In the auto mode, they crop into that image a little bit more to give us a more sort of standard 75mm lens. This hasn't fundamentally changed my feelings on the phone, but it's such a weird thing to do. I had to bring it up here. It's not quite what Xiaomi is advertising. They're advertising and they're saying this is a 75mm equivalent shot, but the sensor is not really delivering that with the sort of full field of view from this lens. And now back to the rest of the review. All 4 sensors match that 50 megapixel quad bare resolution. All 4 sensors match for binned 12 megapixel JPEGs. All 4 sensors have 50 megapixel JPEG modes. All 4 can shoot 4K 60 and 8K video.